Does intuitive eating equal a junk food binge? Or in other words, does intuitive eating cause a junk food binge? Hi, my name is Eve, and I love helping people make peace with food in any situation, no matter what is happening in their lives. So welcome to my channel. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe or give me the thumbs up to let me know that you like these videos and you like the work that I'm doing. Thank you so much for your questions. This video is actually inspired by a question somebody sent me. And in fact, I get this question quite often in my private practice from people who attend my classes and people who shoot me emails. And the question is this. The question is, what if in intuitive eating, all I want to do is eat junk food? I love this question because it's so common. And while I'm talking, you may have noticed that I use air quotes every time I say the word junk food. So I just want to take a minute here to let you know why I'm doing that. The reason why I use air quotes whenever I say junk food is because I don't want to reinforce this idea that a certain food is good or bad or junk. I really don't believe in that. And also, the idea of junk food means different things to different people. So I feel like air quotes kind of takes care of that. In any case, I know what you're talking about. You know, when you go on diets, there's a lot of focus on restriction, counting, measuring, portioning, being hyper controlled with food. So sometimes when people start this intuitive eating journey, their eating may swing in the opposite direction. And they see themselves, feeling out of control with these so-called junk foods. And for some people, what this might look like is having desserts or multiple desserts, maybe after every meal that they have during the day. For others, what this could look like is always saying yes to the food that's available, of being afraid to say no. They're afraid to say no because they don't want to restrict or feel deprived. For others, what this could look like is eating all the foods that they didn't allow themselves while they were on the diet. And oftentimes it could be really scary because they might be eating all of those foods all at once. Now, when this happens, it's very common for people to report that they're feeling very messy with their food. They're feeling afraid of what's going on with their eating, and they're feeling out of control. And when that happens, this idea of intuitive eating seems wrong. It seems counterintuitive. In fact, it feels counterproductive to goals and having peace and sanity with food. And so people start to feel doubtful of themselves, doubtful of what they're doing, and they may start to feel confused because they feel like when they're on the diet, they're feeling ultra rigid and obsessing about food. And now that they're off the diet, trying this model of intuitive eating, they're feeling out of control and also obsessed with food. So the worst part is this feeling of hopelessness that could come up for people because they just don't know what to do. And come to think of it, the worst part is because they feel so scared and out of control and confused, many people might find their way back to yet another diet. Now, I want you to know that this is quite common. In fact, I had a client I saw not long ago who, before she came to see me, she had been on so many diets and she was ready to come off of them. But because she had no support when she decided to come off of these diets, she just went from one binge to another. She felt totally out of control with food because nobody really showed her how to reintroduce these junk foods or these foods that she didn't allow herself to have. Now, I want you to know this could be expected. If there has been a long history of restriction, especially if your restriction has been severe, it's common for people to experience what's called a diet backlash when they're overeating on all the foods they haven't allowed themselves to have. But you could actually prevent this. That's the good news. If you know what to do and you actually have a plan on how to go about this, you don't necessarily have to go through this diet backlash. And this is something I help my clients with. It's a very individualized thing that I help them work through to help them come up with a plan, to determine a plan that's right for them when it comes to reintroducing these types of foods. So it's very individualized, but I still want to share some tips that could help you. If you feel like this is something that's right for you, I want to share some tips so you could do it with peace and sanity and feel supported by me, your friend here on the internet, as you reintroduce these foods. So I took some notes in front of me. I have a computer, so you might see me glancing down, but I just don't want to leave anything out. So the first thing I want you to know is that when you reintroduce these foods, it takes a degree of readiness. I mean, if it feels terrifying, totally scary, and like a nightmare to reintroduce these foods, it may not be right for you. In fact, it may be advisable to actually work with a professional if it's that scary to reintroduce these foods. However, if you're feeling ready, but you're afraid because you don't know what's going to happen, that's probably okay. The next thing I want you to consider is respecting where you're at. Some people try to rush this step before they're ready. They're excited to reintroduce foods and they go ham. Do you know what that means, ham? I recently learned what that means, right? They go, hard as a what when they want to reintroduce those foods, and that could be triggering in and of itself. So it's very important to respect where you are at with this. The next step is, if you do determine that you're ready, is to have these foods in a way that feels safe to you, that feels self-respecting. And so some of the things my clients and I talk about that helps them feel safe is maybe going out and having this food with a friend. Somebody who's already comfortable with the food, that makes them feel comfortable. That might be a way to make it feel safe when they go out and try this food. Another idea is to have a finite amount or a pre-portioned amount of the food, because again, sometimes the quantity itself of the food could be triggering. So when you go and you have this food, this junk food or this scary food that you're trying to legalize, have an amount that you feel safe with and that you feel at ease and comfortable with. Another thing to think about is not doing this at home, because oftentimes when we're at home, oftentimes the serving size is much larger. There are other things at home that could be triggering. So I usually recommend going out to have this experience. And also, when you want to do these foods, as you're reintroducing these foods, you want to do it when you're in a stable mood, when you're feeling not rushed or nervous or scared or stressed out or anxious or anything like that. You want to do it when you're having a day that you're feeling stable in yourself. Like, don't try to fit it in between errands or do it real quick or while you're waiting. That's not doing this experiment. In fact, that might be compulsive eating or emotional eating, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about reintroducing these foods in a way that is respectful, that feels safe, and that feels aligned with you. And so, which brings me to the final thing to consider when you're doing this. I mean, there are many things to consider, but for the sake of this video, for the time we have right now, another thing to consider is to carve out the time and the space in your schedule to have this appointment with yourself to reintroduce this food. You again, having that time so you're not rushed, so you're present with the food, and so you're present with yourself. So also, I want you to know, if what I'm talking about sounds great and you still feel terrified or you feel scared or you really want somebody to hold your hand because that makes such a big difference, not being afraid to get all the help that you need to overcome this eating issue. Look, certain things we're not meant to do alone, and I feel like recovering from an eating issue or this food obsession is one of those things. Having somebody hold your hand and take you step by step could make all the difference. So I offer this from time to time, and I'm gonna offer it today. I have some time in my schedule. It's January 2020, so right now I'm offering this. If you haven't had the Food Freedom Call in the past year, I invite you to this call. It's a private call. It's with me. It's live. It's totally complimentary. And it's my gift to you to help you overcome what's happening with food. So let me see. I'll put the application in the link in the description below. So if that sounds of interest to you, I'm here. And a final thing that I forgot to mention is, when you're reintroducing these foods, and as you're here on your journey of healing your relationship with food, I just ask that you're as kind to yourself and as loving to yourself as you could be. we're all on this planet and we're all learning different things. For some of us, it's, how to navigate food. For others, it might be, being a great parent. For others, it might be learning how to have financial stability. For others, it might be overcoming a health challenge. Another person, it may be some kind of addiction or abuse. There's so many things. And so as you're learning this, redeveloping and, cultivating a supportive relationship with food, I just want you to be so kind with yourself because, it's part of why you're here on this planet is, learning and becoming the best that you are. And that includes your relationship with food. So I honor you. I honor you for watching these videos, for being present, for all of your questions and comments. So I just want to end by saying thank you so much for being part of this community. Thank you for your questions that you send me. Thank you for the comments, for subscribing, and the thumbs up. I hope this video was helpful, and thank you for watching. Bye.